Welcome to Corrective Consciousness episode 171, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And a third guy.
That is true. We usually do have a third guy. In fact, third guy's been pretty consistent for most of
I
our
thought
podcasts.
it was the third man.
I thought it was the third birthday.
No, that's turd
No, that's
birthday.
Parasite Eve.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was the third of the devil's third, if you will.
No, that's just Ivan.
Okay.
Nobody wants the devil's third.
Yeah, well, a lot of people appreciate the Game Grumps playthrough of it, though.
Well...
Yeah, when the commentary is more entertaining than the actual
So
game.
MST3K.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think I really wanted to watch The Brain That Wouldn't Die on my own. No, thank you.
Or
fair
Manos, the
point,
Hands
fair
of
point.
Fate.
Oh, that movie's barely watchable without commentary.
It's not. I tried. What's your actual handle here?
Oh yeah, it's Fakafon. Sorry, everybody.
Oh, it was Fakafon.
That guy. You can leave now. See you, Fakafon.
I call you by different names most weeks. Sometimes it's Pyro Jack Frost. Sometimes it's Old Man Stompy.
I'm really good with my voice and personality. I can change on a snap.
Wow. Damn.
Actually, now that Fakafon's here, Lotus, you can drop off the call.
I got work in the morning. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you for your
Yeah,
service.
somebody used a soundboard to make the Skype hang up sound effect and scare everybody. Yeah.
Well, this episode we have a pretty fun one because this is kind of near and dear to I think all three of us. We love weird shit.
Yeah.
Nah, man, I only play like the AAA stuff.
Like Ghost Head.
Very
Juggernaut.
AAA.
Please.
Actually,
So
wasn't
yeah,
there a
we're
Fatal Frame game that needed like a booklet to be played with? Like you
Yes,
have to look at a
the
book.
Yeah,
Spirit
Spirit
camera.
camera on the 3DS.
yeah the
That-
spooky door.
That looks really hard to play.
It was.
Like apparently, like you need to have like spotlights on it for it to work properly. Or
Well, that's
else,
the
like,
ironic thing. Like, how scary is this going to be? It's a Fatal Frame game, and you have to play it in like the brightest environment.
And you have to play it in like an office chair because you have to like swivel.
Yeah, that actually was a genius idea. Ghosts can go behind you, but then you actually try playing it, and you're like, oh, it was annoying.
Oh man.
Well, it's also like Boktai. You know what I want to do during my free time, which is at night? Play a game where I have to
Yeah.
play in the sun.
Yeah, run to the local park when I can hang out and be in the sun.
Like seriously, like when am I out in the sunlight? Like
I'll
and
play
playing my
Boktai
GBA.
for like the 15 free minutes I get after I eat my lunch on my lunch break.
So anyway, we're doing this episode on weird games, games with a lot of weird stuff, weird premises, just like the whole gamut. So Fakafon,
So could I be the funny one and do an ironic entry of how weird Mario is if you really think about it?
I mean, turtles and mushrooms. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, what's the deal with Mario?
you know what's weird? Mario 2 is actually Doki Doki Panic.
You know what's weird is Pac-Man wasn't originally going to be called Pac-Man.
Well, they couldn't call him Puck-Man. You know what would happen in the U.S., right?
Oh, of course. So, which nobody in the audience knows. Surely they eventually
Everyone is
changed it to
very
Pac-Man.
pure. Yes.
But I know you, Fakafon, had a specific game in mind, and I actually
yeah.
want to know more about this game because I know it has some lineage in common with the Grand Theft Auto games, actually.
Indeed.
So
That's right,
I would want to
yeah.
learn a little bit more about this one since you seem to have some expertise in it.
Yeah, Space Station Silicon Valley on the Nintendo 64. So for anyone who doesn't know what this game is, it's indeed made by the people who, before they became, I think it was Rockstar, they were,
Yeah.
man, I forget their company name, but they made this game. And
Digital GT Interactive, does that sound right?
I
Grand
think
DMA
you're right.
Design. DMA Design. Sorry.
Yeah, where their logo actually was like kind of a character, I remember that.
Yeah, DMA.
And this game was pretty special because it's one of the... Well, first of all, it had a very, very weird look. It looked like... How do I explain this? It just looked really weird compared to most games on Nintendo 64 already. Like, not standard.
Yeah.
And it's about just like the plot is stupid. You're basically like some really cheap mercenaries off to just like save the world from a crashing space station. And inside that space station, like everything's a robot and they're trying to take over the world because they're pissed or whatever. And it's just basically the story is the robot that's with you to like help like stop this whole thing like explodes. So you're just the microchip of the robot and you're trying to survive. And in this game, you actually take control of all the little robot animals in the space station. And it's like the desert situation. You have the snow levels, like the farmlands, etc. So you have like a varied set of animals that goes from like cannon camels, mice with like like Hot Wheels mice. You have dogs
Hot
with
Wheels
cannons.
mice.
Yeah, they go really fast.
Wow.
You have like sheep that fly around. You have like dogs with guns and cannons. It's ridiculous. And the whole thing was, if I can compare it to something more modern, it's almost like Mario Odyssey, where you just go around like controlling other creatures. The way it worked is you had to actually take down the creature before you could control it, so you couldn't just jump to other creatures. And that would be the whole crux of the game, is you have an objective, like for example, destroy the computer. But you start off with a sheep who cannot attack, so the whole point was to get an animal who could attack to get to the computer. Or
That's clever.
for example, it's like pick up this piece of robot, but you start off with like a rabbit, for example. The rabbit cannot fly, but the piece of the robot is in like a place that's inaccessible unless you fly. So you have to do like a series of puzzles where you start with the rabbit and then you take like a dolphin, so you could go underwater to the other side and get like a penguin who could fly to finally get the thing. It was basically, the premise was like a puzzle game almost, where you just need to defeat the enemies, take control of their body, and complete the puzzle. The problem with the game is where it's very good with its puzzle elements, with like using the creatures, like the faster creatures, the slower creatures, the cannons, the range. Like some creatures were close range, some creatures were like long range, some creatures like the gorilla could climb vines, etc., etc. But it was really bad at actually balancing the strength of the creatures, which would mean a lot of time, like when it came to battles, it would be more like a lucky like 50-50 chance that you'd win than an actual like strategy. Like for example, you'd get the fox and you need to beat up the other foxes, but they're as strong as you, or you could even say you're as weak as them. So they die in 3 shots, but you die in 3 shots. So
that's a pain.
Yeah, so
you gotta like button mash and hope for the best.
Pretty much. That was actually the bad part of the game, was like the balance was way off. So in some levels it gets ridiculous, where like the enemies are long range and you have like a short range attack and you don't have a choice. You need to defeat them to progress.
Yeah, I've always wanted to really play this game, and up until recently I couldn't really play it, and I'll tell you why. So this game was very well known for a bug that it has.
Yes, that's the one thing I know about this game.
So this game is well known for people that are in the emulation and kind of like to play stuff on real hardware. So it has a very specific bug that will trigger when using the expansion pack with the N64.
I was thinking something different actually, but I'll get to that later.
Yeah.
I think I know what you mean, Lotus.
So if you have the expansion pack in the system, which most people that own an N64 and still want to play it would, to play the few games that use it
like
and require
and
it.
Such, yeah.
Well, there are plenty of good games that require it, like Donkey Kong and Perfect Dark, and Majora's Mask is the big one.
Yep.
So and StarCraft, if you want to play that.
Yeah, if you actually own that.
Like most people, I don't think I have my original jumper pack, or if I do, it's buried somewhere.
No, actually, that reminds me. I saw a video where someone was, I think they were reviewing the transfer pack or something like that, and they were trying to do comparisons of games with and without it, because, you can run some games that say they require it without it, but they'll just look like shit, or sometimes certain levels won't work or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. But in this video, he was like, I spent hours looking for my original pack. Where is it? And where am I going to get one? And it turned out, I haven't even looked for this myself, but I bet I have mine in exactly the same place. I probably swapped it out. It's probably just in my DK64 box.
Mine is probably, mixed in with all my other video game crap. Like I just have so much.
Oh, I got you. No, I'm just thinking, like, you know how sometimes people
I never threw
take
it
out a
out.
disc of what they're playing and they put the disc in the wrong box
Sure.
because they put that
Oh,
disc
dude.
into the system? Like,
I did that
it's
all
probably
the
like
time.
that with the jumper pack. It's probably exactly like that with the RAM pack for the 64. Your original one might be in your copy of DK64.
Yeah.
But what would happen if you use the expansion pack?
The game crashes. It like straight up won't work.
What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, you start the game and it just doesn't work?
So I'll read you the report. It says there's a serious bug in the NTSC version that causes the N64 to randomly crash if there's an expansion pack present. So you might be able to get through 10 minutes of it, maybe an hour, but eventually it'll crash.
Wow.
Yeah, the thing I was thinking of about Space Station Silicon Valley, it's not really a bug. It's just that one of the collectibles is not programmed into the game. So if you try picking it up,
Yeah.
you'll just go right through it and nothing will trigger.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
it.
big
That's the other
oversight.
major one. Yeah, that's the other major
If
one.
you're really a completionist, then I think a push button code will take care of that for you. It just like won't feel satisfying.
Yeah,
Well-
everyone knows about that. Like, I think it's very early on too. It's like in the third or fourth level too.
Ugh.
I think members of the Crix forum, where the maker of the EverDrives for the classic systems, somebody actually was able to repair both of those bugs. So you
fantastic.
can find
Nice.
a version of the ROM that is completely fixed.
That's great.
Yeah.
But Lotus, do you know what it unlocked when you got all the pieces though? The
No, I have no
collectibles?
idea.
So if you, of course you couldn't get the collectibles, but if you did the push code, it would unlock it's pretty fun. It's a mini game. It's not a very interesting one. It's just like a very basic shmup. Not a shmup. What was the name of the game where you move around and shoot like meteors? The really old game.
Oh,
Defender?
Asteroids.
Yeah, it's like Asteroid.
Oh, when you
basically.
move around, yeah, okay.
So you
Asteroids.
just it'd be like a version of Asteroids. It's not
Mindstorm.
it's not super interesting, but it's it's fun to get some
Yeah, thanks
rewards
for
like
giving
that.
me an unlock.
Yeah.
It's like Mortal Kombat 3, where just for a little bit, it's like, want to play Space Invaders? Like, okay, I guess.
It's fun.
Well, my choice when I thought of this topic was Hylix on Steam. Have you guys ever looked at this game?
Nah.
The only thing I know about that is that the cover looks like a melted Triforce.
A melted moon, actually.
Oh, that was close.
But yeah, apparently they're working on Hylix 2, which I didn't know about. Wow. But so this game is bizarre. So I will link you this in our Skype chat for the recording here, so you guys could just look at the art. Like, it's just so it's a game done
Oh, okay.
in the like it's almost like the style of Earthbound. Like the battle system is very Earthboundy, but it is an abstract ass game, and it has an overworld just like any 16-bit RPG would have, but like everything in it doesn't make any sense. Like you attack with a juice box at one point and it crumbles. Like I literally have no idea what's going on when watching the video of this. I don't know how to get around in it. I played the game for about 15 minutes, and like nothing any of the characters say means anything, or it's just bizarre dialogue that sounds like it's existential, but when you really think about it, it's just nonsense.
Nice.
Like
Whose bones are these?
Yeah.
Your bones. My bones. Bone.
But like it's non-Euclidean too, so like it's hard to get around in the game because you don't know where one thing will lead. It's literally the most bizarre game I've ever played. Probably that I can think of. And I tried playing it with friend of the show, Retro Gamer, our friend from Ireland, and we had a good time just like flopping around in it. I guess that's really what you kind of do in this game, is kind of you just experience it, and it's not really meant to be beaten like any other game. It's meant to be experienced. So like I guess it does have an ending, and you do make progress in it, but like it's so weird that like I don't know how you would be like know you were making any progress. It's just an odd game. I can't even describe the art style. It's like claymation, digitized claymation, on top of like a game maker type aesthetic. It's like a lot of body horror, weird stuff. That your main character looks like a moon. Like you just have to look at it. Like I recommend anybody who's listening definitely like look up videos or images of it, because it's so bizarre, and I like it, but I don't know how long I could put up with it.
Dude.
It's just that bizarre that like I'm glad I own it, and I'm glad I can go into it for another 10 minutes of what the fuck, but like I don't know whether I want to be playing 13 hours of it or whatever, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally get you. Especially in a game that has like really hard to navigate, just the game in general, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely up there as like a weird title. Like I can't think of any game that's a better explanation, like an example, better example. It's only
Yeah.
$3 on Steam. I doubt if it will ever get published on any other platform. I'm kind of surprised it's even on there. It seems even more like an itch.io game than anything. But anybody who's played it loves it. It certainly has a lot of work done to it. Like it's not an amateurish game. It has a clear aesthetic, and everything has a unique look. So there is a lot of like it is a singular work of art. I could honestly say that it's not just you know, somebody just putting a bunch of garbage out there. Like it has an aim, I guess, a goal.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. But
It actually reminds me of a lot of like older, really weird. I don't know if you've ever seen the channel Vine Sauce.
No.
No, I don't follow it.
Well, they do play a lot of weird game like LSD Simulator, for example, and stuff like in that vein. And it
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of those titles where it's just basically a bunch of weird ass nonsense, and it looks weird. And I think maybe it stemmed from like this kind of ideology, like just I'm gonna create something completely weird and have fun with it.
Yeah, I'll read you some of the stuff from the Steam page. So one of the reviews says, and this is like one of the official reviews, like in the actual like body of the description. Hylix is a masterwork in absurdist art and literature in game form. This is the description of the game. Hylix is a recreational program with light JRPG elements, features advanced graphics, RPG battles, overuse of random text generation. There's where you know, the existential bullshit comes from, and around 2+ hours of content. But I think there's a lot more than that. Like it's kind of similar to that really weird. There's another RPG that's really weird like this called Mom. I think it's called Mom. I think that's what it's called. But anyway, yeah, just really, really bizarre. How about you, Lotus? What have you come up with?
Well, I mean, your definition of a weird game might outpace mine because mine is ridiculous, but you know what you're doing in it. But it's actually a game you introduced me to, Jazz Punk on Steam and GOG. That game is really bizarre. You're like, I guess everyone in the game is a robot, but you're like a spy doing spy stuff, and you have like an old timey, like, your mission can be found in this file, like, tell no one. And it plays with all sorts of old tropes, but like things make no sense. Like, someone will get drunk, except the robots, they don't eat, they just kind of pour wine on themselves and just fall over. You know, it's like stuff like that where the game makes fun of like what it's doing. Like, the guy's like, and now I'm going to leave, and he does that thing that that old tired joke where you like pretend you're walking down the stairs behind your desk or whatever, and then you walk around the desk and you clearly see him just lying there and just looking at him, like stuff like that. You go, like the game will reference other games that already exist. Like there's one part where for no reason you get a cursor, like a Warcraft cursor. You have like an orc hand, and you just select things, and if you keep clicking on the sheep, it'll violently explode like a fiery explosion, just like in Warcraft 2. It's just like weird shit like that. Probably my favorite joke in the game is in like the first level where you're in a hallway and you pull the fire alarm and you hear like the ringing sound and the ceiling sprinklers go off, but then you pull the ice alarm and the same ringing sound goes off, but like the sprinklers just shoot jets of flame and you get hit with them, and there's no damage system in this game. You can't possibly die, but when the flame hits you, you go like and like a HUD comes up, which is like GoldenEye 64's health meter, and your health meter goes a little down and the frame rate drops like in freaking
so good.
GoldenEye 64.
Like Little Chef's
like,
Kiss
what
to
the
that.
fuck? And like it never comes up again. It's amazing.
Little Chef's Kiss, like one of my favorite jokes, like in all of reality, but also in a video game. Probably my favorite video game joke I've ever seen.
I also like when you're trying to like look at the time, you have to like adjust clock hands. So you have like this big, weird, hairy hand that doesn't move. Like you can move it, but like you can't move your fingers or anything. It's like a drawing of a hand, and when you're done, you realize that you were just holding up like a cardboard cutout of like a guy's hand. Like, why would you have this? It's like weird stuff like that where the game's just fucking dumb, and you're just waiting to see like what insane premise or joke it's gonna have next. It's pretty fantastic.
Stuff like that is great.
Yeah, yes. I love it when you're like, when you're also going through the call tree of that phone in that first level. That first level, that first level alone, could be a product. Like
the second level is very good. After that, you kind of get the idea, but the first level's insane. It's so good.
I really, really love it. It's really a lot of fun.
This is the game. This is the game where Vice and I have both talked about. Like, there's a secret mini game called Wedding Quake, where it's just an FPS where you're attacking people with like wedding-related artillery, like a cake launcher, or like your basic weapon is popping the cork of a champagne bottle. And like
it announces from death till us part.
Yeah, like you know, like double kill, like till death do us part. It's the best thing. It's the funniest thing ever.
I don't know why, but that kind of reminds me of like the first-person shooter, the South Park game on Nintendo 64.
I can see that. Yeah, with your dumbass like turkey launcher or cow launcher weapons and stuff like that.
You throw like you throw a lot of like snowballs in that, right?
That's your shitty weapon.
Oh man, I got another one. So I really like you know what? It's Xenoclash. Have you guys ever played this one?
I don't
Every
think
time
so.
I hear it, I confuse it with like Xenogears, Xenosaga.
Well, this is a game made in Brazil, I think, and it's like a first-person beat 'em up. There are very few of those. But Xenoclash is one of them.
I can only think of
maybe
like
Breakdown.
Apart from Breakdown, I can't think of any other.
Well, like this only kind of counts because it's not the whole game, but the Chronicles of Riddick games.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's true.
I would say that like melee focused.
They have segments where it's mandatory, but it's not really designed to be a beat 'em up. But it could if you really wanted it to.
Yeah. So this game, it's mainly melee focused, and like everything in it, like it kind of assumes that you understand how its world works, but you were never explained anything, and everything's just bizarre. And your characters,
so like Kingsfield.
Your character is involved in this world and understands everything around him, but you're looking at it and you're like, what the fuck where am I? Why am I doing this? Like it takes place on like an alien planet where like everything is weirdly shaped and like kind of unnerving looking, and you're fighting all of it like melee style, up close and personal. It's I don't know how to put it because it just has such a bizarre landscape, and all of the bad guys and enemies are weirdos with like bird heads, and like it's just like you're on like some alien planet that looks like it was thought up by Salvador Dali. Like,
Oh no.
yeah, it's so hard to explain because it's so odd that you don't have anything to compare it to. It's completely unique. And it got a sequel somehow. It's made by Ace Team, who made the Rock of Ages games.
Oh, dude,
Okay.
that game
And
rocks. No
yeah,
pun
and they
intended.
also made Soul Seraph, the kind of like ActRaiser successor.
Nice.
Let me see here. What have they made? What else have they made? Yeah, Rock of Ages. Yeah, they've made a lot of bizarre stuff. But yeah, it's kind of like the most prominent Brazilian team, and Atlas publishes a lot of the stuff that they make. And yeah, what other art? Yeah, they made the Deadly Tower of Monsters. If you've ever heard of that one, Abyss
No, sorry.
Odyssey. Oh no, they're from Chile. I'm sorry.
Oh, Chile.
Yeah, they're from Chile. So, yeah, it's pretty cool though. Like they make completely like very original games. And like their art style is always very eye catching. Just like they made like a Metroidvania called Deadly Tower of Monsters that is not really a Metroidvania, but it's kind of similar. And it's definitely worth a looking at their games because they're unique. They were on Xbox 360, but I think but these games definitely are more accessible on Steam. I definitely recommend it. It's like $9.99 for the first one. Just even just watch a video of it. You'll be like, the introduction to the game is just like there's this barbarian naked man with a severed eyeball for a head. Like like
The
Why
fuck?
not?
yeah, like what am I looking at? Like it's just I can't even describe it. Like they're weird like mammal like dinosaurs all over the place. Like barbarians that have weird faces. Just I don't know. Like
It
nobody
almost
has a. Everybody's unique. Every individual in this game is unique.
it almost sounds like in the game Incredible Creatures or something like that.
Yeah, and you look at all these things up close and personal. Like it's like there's no generic bad guy because all of them are like bizarre and like don't fit in with each other.
Hey, that's true because it's a first person too, so you get up close and personal with them.
Yeah, you grab their face. The way that you defeat them is like bizarre. You throw them and do all kinds of stuff. Like even the attacks are weird. Yeah, I don't like there are very few games that are weirder than this. Let's just put it that way.
As for me, I have another one, and
Go for it.
it's not as weird as the games we've described, but it's one of those
I
cases
don't
where
know how it could be.
well, obviously, so it's going to be hard to top that. But it's one of those cases where when a really weird premise is played like really straight. That's
Oh,
kind
yeah,
of
I like that.
that's hybrid heaven basically. It's so the premise of the
I love
game
Hybrid
is
Heaven.
you're an operative who's like for some reason you learn later in the game, I'm not going to spoil it, but you decide to take down this like weird underground alien colony with like bizarre creatures, and when I say bizarre, they look grotesque. Like you can see like some really big pigs, like some pigs with some big ass muscles, or like some creatures that look like anemones, or like with beaks and shit. It's just like a collection of really grotesque like creatures that are all more or less humanoid. And the way this game works, it's
The
like
battle system is completely unique.
yes, it's something I've never ever seen anywhere else except in this game. It's a one versus one type fight where you move around the field, like you step forward, step back. It's like almost Soul Calibur like, but slower.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
the way you attack, you gotta press the button to attack when your like charge bar is ready, and you kick and punch. But that's not it. You also kick and punch in a very specific way because you have many ways to kick and many ways to punch, like a side hook, an uppercut, like a mid hook, like you can jab, you can kick, mid kick, low kick, high kicks. It's ridiculous, and the game will detect body part damage. So if you keep kicking someone in the leg, eventually he'll start being able to run. So he'll just like limp around. If you kick them in the head, well, they'll fall unconscious for a moment. I think if you hurt their body, they can't grab you anymore, and if you hit their arms, well, they can't attack properly.
Wow.
And there's also another way so you move around, and when these battles happen, you enter this combat mode. So you just move around, kind of like a more or less classic platformer. And when you're in the overworld, you use like a pistol to like destroy some really small enemies, like drones that'll shoot you if you get too close, or like little things on the ground. And the pistol you have is it's basically like an EMP gun. It just like diffuses those robots and they explode. It's a piece of crap to begin with. It has no range. It cannot target anything for shit. And if you're trying to aim, good luck, because your guy like lurches like 45 degrees. So like unless the enemy is right under you or right above you, you're like screwed. And those enemies tend to explode. So you gotta get close to the exploding enemies to defeat them, which is bullshit. And the really strange part about this game is that you just look at the scenario and you start off as this guy who's like apparently a traitor to the aliens. They're like, oh no, this guy, he's a traitor. And you realize you're not actually him. You're some guy wearing his like a fake skin of him.
Huh.
And it's so strange. So the whole premise of the game is played super straight, like, oh yeah, of course, the president is there and the aliens are actually these guys, but this one has been possessed by like an evil virus and he becomes a giant crab. And it's just played off like oh okay, but
Nice.
just playing through the game, you're like, wait a minute, hold on a second, what the hell is going on?
Wow. I think that game is one of the reasons why you do want an N64 still, because like it's just it's such a unique game and it's so bizarre. Like I don't think it'll ever be republished again either. Like it's just one of those, like you need to either play that on a like an upgraded N64 or like or an emulator or something, because like it's one of those like unique N64 experiences. It never got a port anywhere else. Oddly enough, I think the new Yakuza game coming out is kind of similar in its battle system. Yeah, because it has like like a martial arts based battle system. Like it's going to be I think it's just called the new one's just going to be called Yakuza Like a Dragon, right?
Yeah, it's the Resident Evil 7 thing, like Resident Evil Biohazard. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. So that's going to be 7, right? Yakuza 7.
Actually, yeah, it's also 7.
yeah, which is actually pretty funny. But
and just like Resident Evil, it's the 8th numbered game because there's a 0.
Huh. That's true. Well, how about you, Lotus? Do you have a second one?
Nah, I think I'm good.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, like, I could real quick just talk about a game I've actually let's played already, Harvester.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah,
I actually was thinking about that game too.
Who's heard of that one? I mean, it's on Steam and GOG now, but even so, who's heard of that one? But the general premise is you wake up with amnesia in, like, the 1950s, like a 1950s, like, TV show. Like, it looks like one of those picturesque 1950s...
Like Leave It to Beaver kind of shit, yeah.
Well, yeah, your mom is like, oh, I'm just taking out cookies from the oven, and like it's like that, and you're like, oh, what? Like this isn't my life, I don't think. What's going on? And like you don't recognize anybody, but it's like, obviously you're my son, and like your brother's like, obviously you're my brother, and you're like, okay, and so you're trying to get used to 1950s town, but then you realize how fucking weird everything is. Like the mother's existence is making cookies, like she'll make cookies and then just throw the whole thing out so she can get more practice making cookies. It's like, stuff like that where you're like, what? The game actually allows you to throw punches, even though it's a point-and-click adventure. Like, you normally can't just click a dude and punch him in a point-and-click. That's not really a thing. And if you do, you can actually kill them, and they die surprisingly violently for what you're looking at. And then, then when you change screens, you're fucking arrested, and you get the electric chair, and you die, coughing up blood, game over. You're like, what?
What did I just witness?
And if you try punching, the paper boy, he breaks out a fucking, pistol and shoots you dead. And you're like, what is happening in this universe? What is my goal? And what? Because, the thing is, if you use a walkthrough, then you can learn what you're supposed to be doing. You're trying to get into the lodge, and you got to do these tasks to get in. But, when you first turn the game on and you're just messing around, you have no idea what to expect. People will fucking kill you. It doesn't look like that kind of game, but it is. So it's kind of fantastic. And when you see where the game actually goes, there's a sort of commentary to it where things make more sense. But in universe, everything is freaking crazy, and there's some sort of military vet who is literally half the man he used to be. He's completely missing everything below his torso, and he just holds his body up by his hands, but he's resting over a dead man switch. And if you ever, I forgot what you have to do to trigger this, but if you ever get him to just sit down on the switch, a fucking nuke goes off hitting the town you're in, and it's game over. That was an option.
Why?
So it's stuff. It's stuff like
so
that
bizarre.
where you don't know where this game takes you. And when you get into the third act, I say act, but the third disc, where you're on the final day, I think, of the week. I think it's over a week. Man, shit gets really bizarre. Like it wasn't before and now it is. It gets fucking crazy by the end of the game.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to say what stuff is in there, because it's kind of you got to see it to believe it.
It's a very disturbing game too.
Definitely.
It is.
You don't. It's not. It's fun in that. If you like to see something you've never seen before, it's fun in that regard. But it's not it's
not for
it's
kids.
very uncomfortable. Yeah,
exactly.
It's uncomfortable. It's not for kids, and frankly, the game doesn't play that great. But it's interesting to experience.
Yeah. Any final mentions before we move on to our fan stuff, guys?
Nothing in particular. I was just thinking that
I'm good.
a lot of older games have mechanics that you'll never see again, just because either they're outdated or they wouldn't work.
Or they sucked then, and now we know.
Yeah, exactly. They tried something different and it
I'm
didn't
happy
work
you
out.
tried it, but don't ever do that again.
Well, even something
Don't you
like
dare.
Parasite Eve, which was kind of like Quest 64 as well, you'll never see that kind of gameplay ever again. The one
That
where you
doesn't
did.
Quest. Oh no, I see what you mean. The battle screens.
Yeah, just the one hero, the single hero RPG,
Well, not even that, but like Quest 64, you can take careful aim at enemies and stuff like that. But when they attack, you get to freely run around to dodge them. That was a cool mechanic.
That was really nice.
Quest 64 isn't that great of a game, but that concept is really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm actually surprised that other games don't really have that. I mean, I guess turn-based RPGs in general are kind of getting phased out, but that was a really cool concept in a turn-based RPG.
Well, nowadays, the way they handle it, especially in MMOs, is you'll see the boss doing a big attack, and it will indicate on the floor where the attack is coming from. So
Yes.
stay away from it.
Well, the most popular JRPG right now is a turn-based RPG. So I mean, they're not completely out.
That is true. They're not completely out, but
Dragon Quest XI is
no, I know,
is
but
not
they're
to be
not
ignored.
but turn-based wasn't the definition of RPGs like it was in the Super Nintendo
Oh,
days.
that's for sure.
Yeah.
Even Final Fantasy has graduated from it, really.
Yeah. The last time they were turn-based was
13.
still pretty recently. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually pretty recent.
I was gonna say
13.
10. No,
13's
wait,
over
actually
10 years
12
old
time.
now.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah,
I was gonna say the PS1 era. Oh wait, no, 10. Oh wait, no.
No, 13 is literally the last time. Yeah, and even Dragon Quest XI, kind of can play as if, it's turn based, but only if you notice it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can actually switch it into old school mode where you like you tell all your characters to do exactly what you want them to, but
Yeah.
they kind of have a similar system to like Final Fantasy 12, like the Gambit system, where you
Oh,
could
okay,
tell
okay.
them to like act on their best their best guess of what to do.
Yeah.
You could do that. Of course, I don't play that way, but like I could see why how a new player would be like, okay, yeah, you just do what you want, use your best judgment.
Yeah.
Because like they and you just control your own character, that kind of thing. So I could see how that's appealing. But eh. But I did want to also do a shout out to two final ones before moving on. I'm not going to go into in depth as much as I did before, in essence of time. But Bad Mojo is another weird game.
Oh, I gotta play that still.
Yeah, so it's a very Kafka-esque game.
Yep.
You literally turn into a roach, and you have to like survive your home, which is full of horrors. Like it's really
You live in a
weird.
shithole.
Yeah, it's really bizarre, and all kinds of very violent deaths await you in the game. And then there's also Antichamber, which is a first-person puzzler. So this game is like it's also non-Euclidean in a way. Like each room kind of presents a new puzzle that is usually based on perspective.
Oh yeah, I've seen this game. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really a unique game. I definitely recommend you play it. But everything is like like. One puzzle may be like, this is just a simplified thing, but you may walk into a room that looks completely white, and then like the room kind of transforms into a large area because of the way like a white room would look like without any corners or anything. It'll turn into like
Yeah.
a really wide like spanning area, but it really in reality you're just in this little tiny spot, and you need to travel to another part of that room. It's all based on perspective, and
Yes, yes.
it's kind of hard to describe, and you don't know why you're in it, and it also has like philosophy questions during the game and that kind of thing, and a lot of interesting ways to beat the game too, because the tools that you are given are not typical tools. They're ways of manipulating the things in front of you, and one of them is like a block creation tool, and it creates a little tiny block. Yeah, really interesting stuff. But we should move on to fan stuff.
Can I just do a
Sure.
really quick mention?
Sure.
A mobile game called Monument Valley. It's also
Oh
about
yeah,
manipulating. It's also the same manipulating like perspective on an isometric plane. It's a great puzzle game and it's beautiful.
yeah, and you do that kind of thing in Fez as well.
Yeah,
I should mention.
that was it. Sorry.
No.
All right. So, yeah, we have just a few comments here. Anthony Cooper says, I'm with Lotus when it comes to Far Cry games, but Blood Dragon is definitely a classic for being a side game. And, yeah, Vice, the music's fantastic, and acting is just too amazing. Yes, it is. From
Yeah,
what I've seen, it's fantastic.
I would definitely recommend that if you play any Far Cry game, that's the one to play.
Yeah, Blood Dragon.
It's probably the best one, like in all
And then
reality.
we got a comment from Fakafon himself. Oh my god.
Who's
The
that
third
guy?
guy.
So, yeah, the third guy. So the third guy says, you know what game could do for a re-release or remaster? Mischief Makers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite
100%
agree.
agree.
That might be my favorite N64 game.
It's up there, and it is a crying shame that it hasn't been republished in any other
Yeah.
form.
Yeah, it's amazing that it hasn't, because it's easily playable on any system. It's not like there was an N64 gimmick or anything.
I think it's a rights issue thing. That is when Treasure was working with Enix, and they had like a falling out apparently. So all of their games from that era haven't been republished.
Gotcha.
From my knowledge.
And Dracologist had a couple of comments here. One of them was, couch co-op over the internet, I need that for Megabyte Punch. And there's a musician by the title Laserhawk, and he makes music similar to Perturbator, kind of like 80 Synthwave.
Oh yeah, I've actually
Perturbator. Yeah, Perturbator's a freaking legend. He's done a couple of the tracks for Hotline Miami 2, but he's done a whole bunch of other stuff on his own.
Yeah, I
It's
think
gorgeous.
Laserhawk made Overdrive, if I'm not mistaken, and
I
that's
think you're right.
really probably the best modern synth album that I've ever listened to. It's amazing. It's really, really good.
And Dracologist also says, grind is always the most center point of what you should make the most fun, so it doesn't
Oh, it's
feel
called
grind.
Redline. The album's called Redline, and
Gotcha.
it was Laserhawk. Yes.
Yeah, and he says also the underwater ability in Bloodstained is also a random drop from a common enemy.
Oh, great.
Next to being skippable, instant text is nice. And interesting ways to travel a large map, like mounts, vehicles. Like in Brutal Legend, just make sweet jumps to pass the time if you don't want to use insta-teleport. And our question is a very simple one, but it can raise some interesting thoughts, I think. Insane Buffoon asks, would you rather have a Skies of Arcadia remaster or sequel? Like, my first thought was immediately sequel because I've played the original, but then I started thinking, like, but the original wraps up everything so nicely with its ending, and it hasn't seen the light of day since the GameCube, so maybe a remaster would be good.
Yeah, I was thinking definitely a remaster as well.
I would personally like a remake, not just a remaster, because
Yeah.
there
Oh,
are
yeah.
some quality of as much as I love the game, I name myself after it. I love it. It's very, very good, but there's some quality of life stuff that could be taken into consideration at this day and age.
Not such an insanely high encounter rate.
That's
Yeah.
number one. Yeah, that's number one. They could add content to it, which I would find very nice, and update the graphics. And if they did,
Yeah.
but keep the same story and add like a couple more regions, I would be very happy if they did like a full-on remake. Also add just add more locations and things to do for.
The locations would probably have to be minor, though, because there's a big thing about
Sure.
the major locations having their own giga.
Oh yeah, that's true, but they could you can do something with
Yeah,
that.
you can have some little island. Like, they did a million little tiny places where you could meet a guy.
Well,
Yeah.
they could magic that away. They could come up with a reason for why you're going there, or what
Well,
whatever.
I suppose they could have a place where, like, one region was split into two, and there's only one giga or something like that, so, like, it's gone off and done its own thing.
Or the regions could have a new concept, like like minor elements or something like that. Whatever,
Sure.
whatever. But I mean, I would love anything at this point.
Well, one
Honestly.
of the things, the big city you're supposed to be visiting, which is like the enemy's HQ basically.
Valua.
Yeah, Valua.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that city doesn't look that impressive. I mean, they could do with a remaster, they could make that city really look good.
Well,
Not only that,
yeah.
but you only ever stop by, like, once, and, like, the only time you ever see the Grand Palaces or anything is really in cutscenes. When you're there, you just kind of see a bunch of people hanging out outside, like, we sure live great lives, and you're like, I assume you do, I guess. I could tell by your rich clothing.
Well, I mean, the desert town looked really nice, for example.
The desert town was great.
I like the pirate town. My favorite.
Yeah,
like
they
the
feel
one that
very,
you make
like-
on Crescent Island is
Yeah,
so
yeah.
much fun.
You can make it however you like.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I love that game, but like a full on remake would be my ultimate favorite thing. I don't see that ever happening. I mean, the person who made it is still with us and still makes games for Sega. So I mean, I think her most recent game was Seventh Dragon 3 on 3DS that I remember. She made the Seventh Dragon series, and I think the Seventh Dragon series. She also made Valkyria Chronicles as well, I think.
I was kind of wondering that because, like, it does a similar thing with the ending where it gives, like, a where are they now for all the major characters.
The major characters are also in Valkyria Chronicles 1.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
there, I think it would be up to her as to whether this kind of thing gets done.
Well, actually, you know what would also be interesting is not Skies of Arcadia, not Valkyria Chronicles, some other property where the Vice and Aika and Fina show up there too in some other incarnation. They just kind of like universe hop.
Yeah, that would be neat.
You know,
I'm trying to think of games that have done that. There have to be things where it's like almost like a dope fish kind of thing.
I mean, you have the warp games. You know, you have D2 and,
of
and
course.
Enemy Zero.
D.
Well,
yeah, no, I know what you mean though. Like same character but not really. Like Patches and the Demons of Dark Souls games.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Like, remember Patches? Like, okay.
Yeah.
I was
Well, you also have
thinking
Snuggly too.
Oops, sorry.
Snuggly. What'd you say, Fakafon?
I was thinking about something. You know how most remakes and most remasters, they have the same musics, but they update it? Like in Final Fantasy X, and it's updated,
Sure.
the music is updated, and the same thing with Secret
Yeah,
of
Yakuza Kiwami, I felt... I prefer the PS2 Yakuza 1's music.
But there is an exception to the rule, which I was thinking about. It's Metal Gear and Twin Snakes, which the musics are completely different. And I was thinking if they were remaking Skies of Arcadia, I would definitely change the boss music because that music's terrible.
Boss. Oh, I think... Well... I don't know. There are a couple of boss musics. I'm thinking the one when you fight like a bounty, and it's like, yeah, it's okay.
I'm thinking the one that's like incredibly dramatic, and you know when you win, there's that really cool tune that starts. But when you're not winning, the music is like, oh.
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah, the neutral theme is kind of like okay, and like what? Yeah, when your HP gets really low, it plays the oh no version of the music. One. Yeah, that's the only track in the game that does that, where there's like, oh, you're gonna win, and they start changing the music up. That was clever, but yeah, the neutral theme has a weird opening for like a boss theme.
Yeah,
it feels, it's like, oh, it feels quirky.
It almost feels like it should like belong to more unique bosses, you know.
Yeah, like I could kind of buy it for the bounties because it's like, look at these cavalcade of characters, but for the dramatic like dungeon bosses, it does feel a little weird. The Armada guys have an Armada boss theme, which I feel it's a lot more dramatic, but I know what you're talking about for the base boss theme.
Yeah,
like the regular boss theme. I mean.
I don't know about you, Vice, but do you agree with me or?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think there's some work to be done. It's not a perfect game, despite being one of my favorite games. But I think
How about step 1? Don't have missable items, even though they really don't matter. Just don't have missable stuff.
The spirit of the game is incredible, and
yes.
The story and the characters and everything surrounding it, and the impetus for doing it is undeniably awesome and hasn't been replicated. And the sense of adventure. So
that is the whole.
Yeah, the sense of adventure is done.
That's the whole crux of the game, really, and it works very well.
Yeah.
Even the whole discovery system, it makes you really want to go and look for crazy landmarks and stuff like that.
I even like the bounties and all that stuff too. It's
and it's kind of fun that they kind of make it a competition too, where you need to discover things like more quickly than the other guy and stuff like that.
Yeah, Domingo, I think his name was.
I think so. Yeah.
What I also really like is not that it actually affects the game, but your ranking, like your wanted poster ranking, Vice the something, like Vice the Bold. Well, not at first, but Vice the Bold's an early one, and you can go all the way up to Vice the Legend. There's Sky King Vice if you kill all the.
We all know that Vice the Bold is the best.
Obviously, that's what I was saying. Vice the Fallen. We have to fight Vice.
Yeah, I mean it's really a fantastic game. Even the GameCube one has is slightly improved from the Dreamcast, but it still does have a minor issue in that it speeds up the music, so it's off key.
The music's a little sped up.
Yeah, it's off key.
But but it has all the Dreamcast DLC stuff in game unlocked in different ways. Not in different ways, but like the VMU stuff is unlocked in different ways. You can still get it. DLC bosses are there, DLC bounties, and it has 3 unique things to the GameCube version. By the way, one thing I was also going to mention regarding your wanted poster ranking, I always thought this was so cool. I think every shopkeeper in the game has a different thing to say to you for like every single ranking you have.
Oh yeah.
Like when you go shopping, like, oh my god, it's Vice, like I can't believe it, instead of like, oh, some customer. It's amazing. So like when the Vice the Fallen side quest kicks in, you might not even know about it, but all of a sudden when you go shopping, the innkeeper's like, "Oh, it's you! Like, get the hell out!" And you're like, "What? What happened?" And then you look up your ranking, you're like, "Oh no! You gotta do something about it."
That's cool.
All right. We can move on from there, I think.
Okay, well, that's our show for this week.
We sure made a lot of
a lot of
awkward
question answering
pauses today.
Yeah.
Well,
please keep us going with likes, thumbs ups, and ratings on 5-star ratings on iTunes.
And our third man. Okay, that's our show for this week. We want to thank our fans who contributed questions. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own on the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays on our sister podcast, Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, and Battle.net.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting involved, or I should say, watching exclusive live streams, currently doing Grim Fandango, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or even getting involved in discussions with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found on patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me on YouTube as Fakafon, and on Twitter at Fakafon, that's L-O-U-P Fakafon. And I have my webcomic Kadrula-chan. If you write kadrula.com, it's also on Webtoons. And the Patreon is also Kadrula.
Okay, great. Well, we will catch everybody next week for another episode of Reactive Consciousness. We'll catch you then.
Until next time, everyone.
See ya, everybody.